Let me wipe this down. Does it look better? Well, it's iPhone 11, okay? And I'm not hooking this up to the pod mic today. I do have it with me, and I do enjoy its solemnness in its shape. I think there's a certain kind of a sense of authority that this invoke, but I'd rather not use it today. See, when I'm speaking into it, there's assumed sense of directionality in there, and I instantly feel engaged and determined, and there seems to be a meaning in my meaningless talk. But today, let's give this one a rest and just have like 4 hours of non-stop English teaching, so I'm a bit tired in the throat. So I'm not gonna go through the plugging and hooking up, and I'm just gonna talking to the iPhone, and because it's a pretty quiet and see it's pretty quiet because it's a pretty quiet Wednesday afternoon. If I talk with intentionality and volition and this kind of determination into the microphone, I think it's gonna come out all right. But yeah, Never Off the Boat Season 3, Episode 2, the first solo episode of the season. Here we go. I'm really enjoying the weather, by the way. The spring is surely coming back. Yesterday I was going out for a cycling trip. These days I ride a lot more bicycle. First, because the weather allows and it's good exercise. Secondly, because like the gas price is really getting high. Like it's really up there now. I haven't checked, but I think it's getting close to that €2 mark for 1 liter, which is insane. When I first got here like 7 years ago, it was hovering just above €1. So I'm trying to minimize the use of car. But yeah, on the cycling trip yesterday, those migrating birds were coming back, and this is the first time I saw them in 2022. I don't know what they called, but they were flying a flock in this like a triangle formation, like an arrow, right? And they're making those sounds. But yeah, they were flying back from the south. It was a very serene experience. The sunlight was not packing too much warmth, but they were strong. Typical south northern lights in the early spring. Very strong, hurt your eyes, doesn't pack a tons of warmth. And it was kind of cold because it was blowing wind, but still, surely you can feel the spring was coming out of the ground, and it was releasing all this like frozen steam from the dirt. Very enjoyable season. I love it. Yeah, for English lessons today, I try to put them up in one particular slot timing day now, congregate them, squeeze them together, one after another. It's more effective. It get me into that English teaching mode, you know. Not throughout the day, but I have them in a particular slot of time. Previously, I did it in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. But because now I'm taking on more students, and this become like my number one income earner for some reason. Well, unexpectedly, the anthropologist turned English teacher. Unexpectedly, it become my number one source of income during the pandemic. So I'm taking this more seriously, and I put them together, and I spend more time into um, prepping for this class. Previously, for the first, I've been doing this how many years now? Since 2015. 7 years. 7 years I've been doing it on and off. When I have more schoolwork, I do less. When I have more uni work, I do more. But it has always been there. For the first a couple of years, I will only do minimum amount of prepping or no prepping at all. And those English classes were only in conversation. I would just help students. mostly Chinese students who want to practice their English speaking by having conversation with them. That's really all they need. Just having that exposure to an environment where they feel compelled to speak in a foreign language, uh, which they rarely get the opportunity to use, or maybe they didn't feel compelled enough to use it in situations in their daily life. But I become that reason to speak, and yeah. But now I've become more and more involved in this, and I invested a lot of time prepping for the class as well. See what kind of method I could use to really make that experience more beneficial or enjoyable for the students. They still come in mostly for conversation practice, but I try to structure the class differently now. At least it's not purely conversational anymore. So one session is about 45 minutes, and the first 30 minutes I will just have conversation with them. I'll ask them how their days are. They ask me how is my day going, because I only take on students who are committed to a long period of time studying with me. No more, I need two months of your time to get me past this English exam, or I'm about to go to US in 3 weeks, so can we please work every day to improve my English? No more of those students. I feel like I don't provide enough value for those students. My teaching style is really not those cramping sessions where you can improve drastically in a couple weeks. No, I think they can find better teachers. They can find teachers who are more suitable for their needs. For me, I think compatible students are those who are willing to commit like half a year, 1 year to the process, and then I can give them the most value. And yeah, that's why I only take on them, and they become my own, not only students but also friends. It's not difficult for me to find a topic that I want to talk to them, so I never really stress over those. We'll have a chit chat for 5-10 minutes, and after that, I'll pick one or two topic that we feel like on that particular day during that session, and we'll talk around there. Either it's a topic, or it's a scenario, or it's a metaphysical conversation, something abstract, an idea. And on the last 15 or 20 minutes of the session, I will give them critiques. I will tell them, hey, maybe there's some expressions that you could integrate in your speech on that part, because that would make it sound more supported, and people will understand where you're coming from, and maybe you drop that expression a bit more, because that sounds kind of demanding and it's not really something that I would see you use on a daily basis in real life scenarios. Talking to me, yeah, but if you're talking to a colleague or friend, that's not really ideal. Things like that, right? And yeah, so I spend more time on that, and today 4 hours in a row. That's my max. That max me out. I do 4 lessons in a day, and then I get pretty tired. Throat, particularly. Like I can still talk to somebody. I'm still talking to the camera, but my throat get pretty spent. But yeah, I also really enjoyed coming back to the podcast. Never off the boat. Never off the boat. Even though I get motion sickness. Coming back to the podcast, I really enjoyed the first episode with Denise, the Estonian architect who lived in Shanghai, China for 12 years now. Very interesting conversation, last for way longer than we anticipated. It was 4 hours of a convo. The phone shut off, so the second part didn't even get recorded, but the first half was. And we're talking about how his life was over there, and his kind of this intrigue into this old town area in Shanghai, where a lot of old like one floor building were still hanging, waiting to be demolished. Yeah, like just listening to his story there, and I get this really interesting sensation flowing through me because I left China back in 2010, and for the first time, I never left the country before that. 2010 was the first time I left the country to go to Italy, and that's where he switched in. See, like he said, it's almost like we switched, and in some particular kind of way, on that day of the interview, I did feel that switch. You know, somebody took my space and we changed place. That's an interesting kind of connection. At least that's how I felt in that particular moment. And just listening to him narrating the story of navigating the narrow alleys in Shanghai, a, a city that I wasn't particularly familiar with. Been there a couple of times, but mostly transiting, to be honest. And I told him about, I felt compelled, to be honest, in that moment. I felt compelled to share with him my experience of growing up in a neighborhood that was also demolished later on. And and that made me feel, you know, viscerally for his experience. I kind of feel for him, which is interesting. That's why the conversation kind of just went on, and it was a fantastic experience. I love I love that conversation. I hope I get him back, or at least if he get to go to China. He's still trying because of the COVID becoming very challenging. So I vote for him. I hope he get to go to China soon, and hopefully I'll get him back on the podcast and we'll have a more conversation about it. That would be awesome. But yeah, yesterday and the day before yesterday, I was listening to this audiobook um, by Jack London, a short novelist, I guess. Is that what it's called? Like people who write short stories, right? He's known for that. He's an American author. I read a lot of his work when I was in middle school and even primary school, I believe, in China, but they were all translated. But this is the first time I get to listen to an audiobook in English. It was To Light a Fire. To Light a Fire. It's about this guy who walk on this kind of a deserted landscape in frozen weather, in freezing weather, and in effort to preserve bodily heat, to sustain his life, he tried to light a fire and fail and die. I'm sorry I ruined the story for you, but yeah, I read that story. I heard that story on audiobook, and it's in so many ways. First of all, great writing. Get me a bit depressed because I don't write that good. Been writing this novel of mine for a while now, and I'm not happy with it. I've been editing it day in and day out, but I'm not happy with it. I think it's not honest enough. I know novel is a creation of fiction, but even with fiction, you need to be honest with your words. It's a different kind of honesty. You're not narrating the truth. You're not, or maybe you are. Who knows? The way how I see it, you're not necessarily trying to be objectively describe something. Yeah, in that sense, you're making something up, but in that making up, there's truth in there. There is honesty, there is integrity, there is a lot of things that need to be kept. And honesty, that sincerity need to be there. Not a single word can be left on paper if that's just putting there willy nilly. No, they need to be trimmed. They need to be lean. They need to be very bare bone. They need to just they need to be just enough. They need to be just enough. They need to be trimmed. Trim the fat, you know. And Jack London To Light a Fire, that was trimmed. That was trimmed very, very nicely. They trimmed all the fat. It's just working, excellent shape. It's nothing but honesty. It's nothing but honesty. It touched a chord. The last time I read something that is this engaging and this visceral, this grinding into your blood vein, that is, it's kind of like something traveling through your veins, packing its potency, packing its poison, packing its medicine. And the last time I read something this honest was The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald, and Salinger, 9 Stories, The Catcher in the Rye. Yeah, it was a while ago, and wow, this is like mind blowing, mind blowing. So neat, so clean, so it's like eating a beef jerky, you know? It's just so good. I mean, it's not everybody's taste, I guess, but to me, wow, it's just, oof, it's potent. It's got that vibrant life in the most minimalistic format, like a knife. You know, it cut and it cut. You think it's not like emotional. You think it's just some simple writing because they don't use fancy words. They don't add all these adverbs in there. It's a man cry, man lie down, man. It's just simple words, and the way how they put together, it's like a blade. It's like this shining blade that cut through things, and it's an affectionate blade. When you cut down things, it feel for the things, it respect for the thing. That's why it's so sharp. It doesn't want the thing to be cut to suffer. And it's great writing and get me kind of sad because I get competitive. I'm like, I want to write better than Jack London. But yeah, I don't think Jack London is. I don't think Jack London's writing is useless. I don't think Hemingway's writing is useless. They're novelists. They write fictional stuff. The Old Man, the Sea, the Old Man doesn't exist. The sea, neither. The man into Light a Fire, it's just the man. It's any man, and at the same time, it's no man. And that dog was all dogs, and at the same time, no dog. And fiction, you know, it's I get moments, and against moments I wonder, yeah, it's what's valuing this. There's more pertinent things that maybe there's more pertinent things that more crucial things that we need to consider, like real life scenarios, real life things that actually exist, physically present, visually speaking, in front of our eyes, and they're there. Maybe they're more important. But yeah, after reading, after hearing to light a fire, and I was doing pull up in this park, cycling, and then I got to this park, and I was doing pull ups, and that's the time, and that's around the time that the audiobook ended. It was a really short story, about 40 minutes, audio time. I remember I was doing some pull up and I was thinking, man, I could do two more. And I did one more, 1.5 more. I didn't get the second one done. So in total I did 11.5 on that round. And man, I don't know. It was real. What it was important. And it was important, and I made a decision. And I made a decision on that point. No matter what you tell me or anybody tell me, that there's more important things in this world. Jack London's To Light a Fire will be important. Okay? It will be important. The Catcher in the Rye is going to be important. Fitzgerald is going to be important. All of this fiction, they are going to be important. I think it's a sickness that I think it's a sickness. I think it's a sickness that I think it's a sickness if I think that fictional things are not important and we can only talk about things in certain vocabulary, under certain light. I think what I think I think oftentimes I feel the pressure to engage in certain kind of topics, you know? No matter what it might be. There's timely concern. There's a timeline to a lot of things. There's a war happening in Europe between Ukraine and Russia. You should talk about that. There's a thing about me being Chinese. You talk about that. Timely matter, which seem to be more real, but they're not. They're not more real. They are real. And there's a certain kind of narrative. There's a certain kind of vocabulary. And if you talk about those, I encourage you to. I'm not spotting you. But for me, I want to talk about my things. And I'm not turning an eye away from humanity. I'm not turning an eye away from suffering and pain and injustice. I have my vocabulary. I think there's something deeply universal about human feeling and human sentiment, and we can use different avenue to explore that. Yeah, that's kind of like how I feel. I'm concerned, I am concerned. I think about a lot of things. About China, about my hometown, about the place that raised me, and I think a lot about the war, about the conflict, about people moving away from their home, forced out of their home, compelled out of their home, suffering, death. I think about a lot of those. But I will not use a language that is being prescribed to me. I will not use a language of nouns. I will not use the language of adjective. That's not my way. I don't enjoy it. it make me feel powerless to use a word that I don't feel comfortable with. I think people deep down there, we all know we have some universal value, and I want to communicate that value, and I want to tap into that core of humanity by writing something that seems useless. I want to write something like to light a fire, like Jack London, man. Oh, jealous, truly envious of the dude talent. But yeah, I just don't want to be hijacked into a conversation. I don't want to use, and it's kind of like, mm, you guys all know this story about the vampire. You gotta invite them in. They can't get in your house. That's a mythology, isn't it? That's a part of that vampire mythology that they can't get in your house. They can't get in your space if you don't give your verbal permission to them. That's why they would, disguise themselves. They will pretend to be herd individuals, and they will be outside of your porch begging for permission to enter the premises. That's a saying, and I don't know why it's very similar to that to me. And when it comes to dialogue these days, especially conversation that is pertinent to politics, it's not that I don't talk about politics. I think I'm talking about politics every day, but I don't give you permission to manipulate me into using your language. I'm using my language. And it's not really that hard to decode. It's not that hard to decode. I think it's easy to feel for something if we all look just a little bit a little bit a little bit zoomed out and we see it. And I think I'm going to stick to the useless things that I do, you know? Writing that useless novel. I still don't know. I hope I understand it better. Like, what is the value of this? I know what it means to me. When I write, there's this really strong feeling of density. It almost feels like you become a rock and you're sinking into this sea, and you're comfortable. You're comfortable sinking into it because you're hot, you're dense, and you're not worried. Even though it's scary, I'm scared of the sea. That's why I never get off the boat, right? But it's that feeling. It's that feeling that you're constantly sinking and you're delving into it, but you're not worried. You know you're the most dense thing around and nothing can hurt you. That's a feeling of writing. I know that's a value for me in that useless endeavor of writing fiction. But yeah, what is the value of that in 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 giving that writing to somebody else to read? I don't know. To me, Jack London is valuable. Fitzgerald is valuable. But I don't know. Something I wanna hey, maybe it's going to come to me. There's no need to push on it, right? I went to Thailand with Alexandra and we had a great trip. Thailand was moist. They had great food over there, sweet mango. The beach were nice. I didn't get to swimming a lot of those. We went to this one island off the coast of Pattaya. Beautiful place. The best blue water and white sand beach I have seen in a while. We we got into the water. It was warm. There was body temperature almost. So it was like soupy feeling. It's like you're basing soup. It was 12 days in total. I think plus the traveling, so 2 weeks in total. One day, the first day was in the hotel. We got to quarantine for one day before our test result of COVID came back negative. And then on fifth days, we gotta do another test. And we were grounded for a night as well. But besides that, it was a pretty free travel experience. And yeah, Thailand wasn't, before I went there, I had a certain kind of expectation. It was neither negative or positive, but it was an expectation. You have certain kind of expectation for that place, and especially it's a place I have heard a lot of times from people who have been there, from movie, um, and even YouTube videos that I have watched before the trip. But when I actually got there, it's different. It's I wouldn't say it's different from the expectation, but it's truly different, and it's a place I definitely want to go back to. Um, People were nice. A few taxi drivers trying to scam us, but it was reasonable. When I said no, we have to stick with the meter. I don't want to pay a negotiated price, and they were okay with it. They don't get mad or anything. They're just like okay. They just hustle. They try to scam you, but when you say, "Hey, I don't want to get scammed," they'll be like, "Okay, I will not scam you," which is super cool. Which is super cool. The whole trip was without a hiccup, without a doubt, the best experience I had in a while when it comes to traveling. And yeah, people were nice. People were nice. They were courteous, very friendly, smiling. Don't speak a lot of English, but we find a way to talk, especially when there's a universal language of hand gestures and smile. And I got a hand of that from the local, and it was really pleasant weather. I've not so many foreigners these days because of the quarantine and because of the COVID lockdown and all that. But yeah, wow. I'll see you in the next episode. Never off the boat. I hope you will be okay, and I hope I'll be okay. Take care.